I was debating with myself how I wanted to handle this because I have competing ideas, but I want to put it out there, so we're going to. First, the backstory. There is the very first published module for 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, to my knowledge, was the Sunless Citadel. And in the bottom of the Sunless Citadel, there was an enemy called the Gulthias tree. And in the module, it just says that there was, like, decades or centuries ago, a vampire, a very powerful vampire named Gulthias, who operated in that area. And he had gotten too big, too bad, too evil, so a group of adventurers came to put him down. And they managed to corner him while he was sleeping in his coffin, and they staked him through the heart with a wooden stake. But there were two key points there. One, if you know your vampire mythos, you know that vampires sleep in a coffin that's filled with the soil of their homeland. And two, the stake was not any old normal wooden stake, but a green wooden stake. What's green wood? Green wood is wood that's still alive. When you pull, it's still alive and growing. When you pull a branch off a tree, like a young branch that's just barely growing, it's green inside, and it's very flexible because of all the water content and what have you. So they had a freshly made stake from a still living part of the tree, drove it through a guy's vampire's heart into soil. So, and then they left the body there. So this green wooden stake grew. It took root in the soil and grew and absorbed the essence of the vampire, all that evil and malevolent nastiness, and it got into the tree. And now the tree it's not mobile, it's stuck growing there. But it grows underground because it's a vampire tree, and it feeds on blood and life essence rather than sunlight and soil. So when what am I going for here? Oh, okay. So it grows up and it's got this malevolent vampireness to it, and what it'll do is spoilers again. I don't know if I said spoilers earlier, but spoilers. You're going down into the Sunless Citadel to find an adventuring party that had already gone down there, and two of them were killed by the Gulthias tree. Its branches like wrap around you and hold you up against the tree, and then it sucks the life and blood out of you. And then its bark will grow over your skin and encase you in bark, and then your lifeless husk of a body is animated by the evil of the tree, and then you stay around, and if something comes by to try and kill the tree, your animated husk of a body goes out and fights for it. And that always, I thought it was pretty awesome. That was a cool idea, and so I stole it, as I am wont to do. So in Trocare, not in the runes of Trocare itself, even though there's the whole, vampire plant growing without sunlight thing, I didn't want to have it inside the runes of Trocare because it didn't make too much sense for me. I actually wanted it outside, down the road. There's a trade route that ran along the runes of Trocare. And at one point, for no reason at all, it's running perfectly straight, and then suddenly it loops around a section of forest, and when it hits the other side of that part of the forest, runs straight again. And what I wanted players to do was see that and say, hey, why doesn't the road just go straight? Why does it go around? And so they'll think to investigate that part of the forest. Well, the backstory for that in Trocare that I made up was that there was a druid who lived there, and there was a priest of the god of travel, and that god's name is Durgan. And the priest of Durgan was basically in charge of making this road, and so he's heading straight and straight and straight and straight, and he's plowing through the forest as needed. And the druid had given permission for part of the road to go, but then it kept going. The priest of Durgan kept going with the road and kept constructing it. And the druid said, "No, I didn't give you permission to go this far into the forest. You need to stop." And the priest said, "No, you can't stop. The road has to keep going." And so they got into a fight, and like first an argument, but then it actually came up into a fight. And the Priest of Durgan ended up winning, but not before the druid had started animating parts of the forest around him. He had cast a very high level spell, and basically, treants and the vines and the bushes and the grasses and everything started coming alive to help defend. But that was right before he was struck down dead by the priest of Durgan. Now, Durgan got kind of pissed about this and struck his priest lame, and that's gotta suck. Your god is the god of travel, and then he makes sure that you can't walk anymore. That's like, wow, you did something really bad. But that's all backstory that doesn't really matter. The thing was, the druid was struck down dead, and his burning vengeance and desire for vengeance infested that section of forest. And so now the plants come alive and they are keen on killing people as they walk through. So that was a dangerous spot. And then the main enemy was going to be the Gulthias tree. But of course, this time it wasn't a vampire staked to the ground, it was a dead druid spirit inhabiting a tree. Oh, I should show extra pictures. Here is a 1970s artwork of an evil treant attacking some lady with an axe. And here is this is from a game called Lineage 2, which I've never played, but this was a cool little boss monster. I'm going to go ahead and make it a bit smaller so that you can see the full tree. He looks suitably evil. Here's another 1970s-ish version of an evil treant attacking hobbits. And then there's this, and this thing right here is just like super awesome looking. This not so much. This looks like a lich rolled around in the compost heap for a while. This looks malevolent. So the Gulthias tree was going to be a separate encounter area in the original Runes of Trocare campaign. And I want to keep it for the sandbox game. And the exact same backstory and everything can be there, but nobody's going to know or care about it because, the people have been dead for 3 and 4 and 500 years. But there's still this malevolent section of forest. And what it allows you to do is use all of those plant monsters that D&D has that nobody uses because plant monsters are kind of stupid. But they're also kind of cool and creepy. When suddenly, like assassin vines, there's just vines in a forest, but there are vines that know to lash out and wrap around your neck, pull you off your feet, and choke you to death. Stuff like that. Or some sort of evil kudzu vine. And what was all of that for? Okay, so that explains the Gulthias tree and the fact that it's still going to exist as an encounter area, sort of like an immobile boss monster that you can wander across as you head across the map. You can adjust the challenge rating up or down as needed based on what kind of other plant creatures you put in the area. So it's suitable as an early encounter area or as a further on encounter area. But what it ties into is the fact that the other day when I was looking at maps, I found a map from a D&D adventure, and the map was called the Leafless Wood. The map itself is stupid. There's not much to it. It's just a road and a bunch of tree stumps and a river, and that's it. It's not very interesting. But the name, the Leafless Wood, got me thinking. Because, as I mentioned in the sandbox game, you're supposed to encourage the players to have a map, and then on that map there's going to be different areas, and those different areas should have evocative names. And so you can have one of those names be the Leafless Wood. And obviously, when you go there, the characters encounter a leafless forest. It's a forest where all the trees are dead or bare. And so here's a couple pictures of that I found just now. None of these are particularly inspiring to me. Just this is the kind of thing that you would imagine walking through. And if there were, a couple miles of this, calling it the Leafless Wood would be a good idea, don't you think? There's a view looking up, very ominous looking, and everything's dead and twiggy. We'll get to that one in a moment, and we'll get to this one, I guess, in a moment right now. 75, there you go. I found this. This is just, imagine that thing wandering around the Leafless Wood. I mean, it doesn't seem like that much of a monster, although apparently it's attached to the ground. Maybe it's coming out of the tree. Ooh. In addition, like the trees can re-sprout, things that had died in their midst. That would be a cool idea. And then I found this picture, which is also kind of similarly cool. I don't know how well you can make it out, but like this is a goblin or an orc, and then this is how big that thing is. So that would be one heck of a boss monster wandering around the leafless wood. But what's the point of this right now? Well, I'm not sure if I want the Gulthias tree in the leafless wood because so many D&D plant monsters use they're green and leafy in that. So actually what I want to do is elicit suggestions from you guys. What do you think would be the leafless wood? I know you only get 500 characters on a YouTube comment, but basically, why is it leafless? Why is everything dead and barren? And it's not winter time because it doesn't bloom ever. Or what would be something cool to encounter in the leafless wood? You know, something like that. If you had to make up a detail for a place called the Leafless Wood, what would it be? I'm working on ideas. I've already got a few, especially thanks to these pictures. But it'd be nice to get some extra feedback. And I'm probably going to do a series of these videos where I think of a name or I think of an idea and get the other from you.